The following story is one of the most brutal polar bear attacks of all time, not only for the victim who was eaten alive, but for his children who had to watch the entire thing. Hit that like button and subscribe right now. This is the brutal polar bear attack of Aaron Gibbons. Welcome to Final Affliction. Polar bears are known to be one of the most fearsome predators in the natural world. You've probably all heard this advice when coming across a bear. If it's brown, lay down. If it's black, fight back. And if it's white, good night. Luckily, polar bear attacks are very rare and there have only been a few recorded fatalities. Despite this, the number of bear attacks worldwide have gradually increased over the last couple of decades because of increased food scarcity and habitat destruction, which is forcing these animals to leave their natural environment and encroach onto human territory in search of food. What little habitat these animals have left is often used for hunting and hiking by humans, leaving them with very few places to go, and the likelihood of encountering someone increases. While brown bears have always been the main perpetrators of these bear attacks in North America, there is an alarming trend growing as polar bear attacks are on the rise. Aaron Gibbons was 31 years old in 2018 and was considered to be an incredibly experienced and talented hunter. He was a family man, someone who put his 3 children above all else and kept them safe no matter what. He lived in RV at Nunavut, an area known to be very remote, suffering incredibly cold temperatures throughout the winter, which means that the community must help each other out if they are going to survive this season. Aaron regularly used his hunting skills for the good of his community, selflessly providing meat for those in need. Aside from the cold, the area shared its land with an apex predator, the polar bear. Despite the close proximity, there had not been an attack in the area for 18 years, and the indigenous people knew to leave the animals alone, creating an understanding between the bears and the people of mutual respect and solitude. Naturally, there had been encounters regardless, and so a patrol had been set up on the outskirts of town to protect the inhabitants and redirect any bears who got too close to the settlement. Aside from a few interactions, there was a relative harmony between the people and the bears. On July 3rd, Aaron decided to visit Century Island with his children to take them fishing and spend some quality time with them. The island was around 10 miles away from their home by boat and was a regular fishing spot for locals and tourists alike, particularly as it was a hotspot for beluga whales. The family planned on gathering some bird eggs on the island, and as soon as they landed on the island, the children ran off the boat, excited to spend time with their dad for the day. He briefed them on the do's and don'ts of their activity to make sure they would be as safe as possible, but he didn't foresee any issues for the day as it was a fairly standard procedure and he just wanted his kids to have fun on their day together. After explaining some of the dangers, the children headed off to collect their eggs. Aaron was proud to see how excited they were and was ready to slowly teach them everything he knew so that they could grow up protected by his knowledge. While watching the children, he spotted something in the distance, and the longer he stared at it, the colder his blood turned. A polar bear was slowly stalking his youngest daughter, creeping closer and closer to where she was searching. The bear's ears were facing backwards, signaling to Aaron that the bear considered his daughter to be prey and he knew that there was no way that she would win the fight against the bear. At this time, she was completely unaware, assessing a nearby bird's nest to see which egg she could take back to her dad. Aaron shouted to his children, telling them to run to the boat as fast as they could. He sprinted towards them, trying to get between the bear and the children. But as he ran, he realized he left his rifle on the boat and so was currently running towards a hunting polar bear with no protection but his bare hands. He began grabbing rocks instead, hurling them at the animal in an attempt to distract it or scare it away from his children. Aaron was so desperate he would do anything he could to save his children. Suddenly, a few of his rock throws hit the animal. Confused, it stops tracking the children. He was so thankful that his children were no longer in the animal's eye line that it took him a second to realize that all of the bear's attention was now fixed on him instead, and he was completely unarmed. He shouted to his eldest daughter on the boat, telling her to call for help on the radio and continue to try to throw rocks at the bear to scare it off. Quickly, Aaron realized that this wouldn't work as the bear continued to approach him and decided to break all the rules. He turned his back on the animal and ran for the boat. He could hear the bear behind him and knew that it was going to be much faster than him. He just needed to get close enough to the boat so that his daughter could throw him the rifle. It was his only chance. He ran along the shore, praying that he would be able to make it back to his children in time. Unfortunately, polar bears run at 40 kilometers an hour, and so it was impossible for him to outrun the bear. He looked at his children one last time and was pulled to the ground as the bear leapt onto him from behind. The animal grabbed him by the neck and began throwing him from side to side, the strength of the bear making Aaron seem like a rag doll in its grip. The pain must have been excruciating as his body was thrown into the rocks and the ice beneath them as his children were forced to watch. When Aaron finally stopped moving, the bear climbed upon him and began to eat him, finally ending the life of Aaron Gibbons. The children were traumatized and begged for someone to come and help them over the radio. They hid in the boat, listening to sounds of their father being devoured by the predator. But their prayers were soon answered, as an emergency team arrived and took the children away before shooting and killing the polar bear. Aaron's body was half-eaten at this point, and so he was taken back to his family and community in Arviat instead of the hospital. Everyone was devastated by the loss. He was an important part of the community and well-liked by all. His sacrifice was not in vain as he saved his 3 children despite losing his own life. 2 years later, his bravery was recognized in a Canadian ceremony by the Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief of Canada, Julie Payette. He received the Star of Courage for the defense of his children, and although he was not alive to receive it, his family were able to keep it as a physical reminder of the courage of Aaron, who was truly a hero to his family before ultimately meeting his final affliction.